Good evening from the Battalion Newsroom. I'm Sarah Smith. Tonight, we will be bringing you a special report on Texas A&M University dining services. Beginning fall of 2012, all freshmen living on campus will purchase a new mandatory meal plan. The new meal plan will consist of $1,200 dining dollars and will be implemented over the course of 4 years. Eventually, juniors and seniors will have the option of purchasing a cheaper meal plan amounting to $800 dining dollars. The move to the new meal plan is due to a lack of funds. University Dining Services hopes that with an increase of funds, they can also increase food quality and quantity for consumers. I sat down with Director David Riddle and talked about University Dining Services. Okay, so Mr. Riddle, thank you again for meeting with the Battalion to discuss the new meal plan for University Dining Services. So my first question is, can you briefly just describe the new meal plan going into effective fall 2012?
Sure, and thanks for the interview. I appreciate the opportunity. The meal plan is implemented over 4 years, so it starts, as you mentioned, in fall of 2012. There are two main reasons for that. One is so that it has no impact on current students, current residents, I should say, and then also it coincides with the reopening of the MSC. And one of the reasons for that is that we need the capacity of the MSC to handle the increased volume. We'll have about 800 seats in the new MSC, so that's important new dining space to offer residents as well as the rest of campus.
Neat. So what are the reasons, I guess, behind this new transitional phase?
The reasons for implementing the meal plan is I joined the organization a little under 2 years ago, and so the first things I looked at, I knew I was getting an organization that was struggling financially, and so the first things I wanted to look at were what could we do in terms of cost cutting to make the department more efficient, more effective. And I went through and did quite a bit of that, but then on further study I realized it was not enough, and really what we had is we had a disparity between the infrastructure and our revenue, and so and primarily the infrastructure that's in place to serve residents, to feed residents who live on campus. And given the situation the department was in, it was really important for us in order to make progress and move forward and sustain our existing services, but also improve those services to increase our volume so that we would have revenue that's more appropriate for the amount of infrastructure that we have. And we have a lot of large dining halls on campus. We have a lot of retail locations on campus which residents have full access to, which is a little different than a lot of universities. We don't make our residents eat exclusively in the dining halls. So it was important to elevate our revenue a little bit. Right now, 90% of the residents that live on campus in the fall of 2010, this most recent semester, 90% of them bought a meal plan voluntarily. And it's that additional 10% though that for the department makes the difference between really success and failure. So really what we're trying to do is address that issue and elevate revenue up a little bit so that we're healthy and sustainable and viable.
Okay, neat. So I guess you mentioned there's been a lack of funds for University Dining Services. How exactly is University Dining Services funded?
Well, we're an auxiliary. There are several auxiliaries around campus, and most auxiliaries are similar to ourselves, to dining, in that we don't receive any taxpayer funds or student fees or anything like that. So we're kind of a business with inside the university. So we make our money one meal at a time, and that's it. That's the total source of our funding. In the fall this semester, about 65% of our total departmental revenue came from residents, and the rest is from a variety of things, mostly cash and credit card sales. So selling to folks who don't have a meal plan.
So what are the pros and cons of being an auxiliary source?
Well, I think it's more exciting from a management perspective. My background is in business. I did my master's here in the business school, so it's much more like running a business. We have to monitor our expenses and our revenue, our investments very closely. We have to take a very strategic approach to when we spend our money, what's the return going to be? And we also have customers that we have to please, and so that's something that I enjoy. I certainly enjoy, providing a good service to students on campus and having them come back and dine with us a second, third, fourth time. So it's just, I'd say, very much like running a business in the outside of the university.
So does the new meal plan affect all students equally?
Not in the sense that it only applies to residents, and it only applies to residents in the hall. It does not apply to the university apartments. So graduate students and things like that would not be affected. It would only be undergraduates living in the halls. So in that sense, it doesn't apply to all students equally. It would only apply to those students who choose to live on campus. I think another aspect is that we have a two-tier system. So we're not going to start implementation of this until 2012, and we're going to implement it over 4 years. And again, the reason for this phased-in implementation is because in one of the focus groups that we conducted with residents, the current residents were very concerned that it might affect them. And so by phasing it in over a 4-year period of time, we never really impact a resident who lived on campus without having the requirement. The other thing is we've created a two-tier system. So juniors and seniors who live on campus will be able to have a slightly lower plan than freshmen and sophomore, and that's really intended to address their increased independence, and that was something else that came out of our focus group, is that juniors and seniors were interested in having a lower plan available.
So in the new meal plan, it's made the transition from just being solely worth of dining dollars rather than meal tickets.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, what are the pros and cons of that?
I see two benefits for students, and so this is the part I think we're able to give and be a little more generous than we have been. As we went through looking at other schools and imagining how this might work and trying to come up with solutions, there are some other schools who went to transition from a meal-based dining plan to a dining dollars-based plan. And one important thing happened in that the use by the student increased. So instead of having some meals left over at the end of the semester that you lose or that you have to convert, the students, the plans where they have only dining dollars, they're more fully utilized. So I think the students are going to get better value out of the plan under a dining dollars model. And the reason for that, I think, is it gives them total flexibility. If you don't want to come into a dining hall and use an entire meal for a cup of coffee and a bowl of cereal in the morning, you can go to one of our retail locations and just specifically get that. So I think that increased flexibility is what leads to kind of a higher utilization of the plans. And that's important. Flexibility is important for this type of a campus because it's such a large campus. If somebody lives on the north side but they've got classes on West Campus, it would be unfair of us to ask them, in my opinion, to ask them to come back to Sabisa, for example, to have lunch because they may only have 30 minutes between class. So we want to make sure we created a system that gave students a lot more flexibility and hopefully more value for the plan.
Okay, so there's kind of a mixed opinion on campus. Many students agree that the mandated meal plan is necessary and it will work, but then others are a little bit uneasy as they feel that it's kind of anti-capitalist. So how do you plan to combat these attitudes?
Well, our intentions are to generate some additional revenue for the department, and more importantly, generate some net income for the department. We have every intention of putting that right back into the program. So I think that's certainly something that should combat some concerns on the part of students. We're asking them to eat with us more often, and in exchange, we're going to give them better facilities. And so, for example, the Commons needs to be addressed. The lower level, we haven't been able to use that really as a dining facility in many years. It needs a major renovation. The net income, the additional net income that the department generates will be put directly back into a renovation of the Commons. So I think that's certainly one way we'll address concerns on the part of students. They're going to get something out of this very soon in a reasonable amount of time. I think the other aspect as far as concern about choice is that they still have a choice whether or not they choose to live on campus. Really what we're doing is we're taking a kind of a combined approach to housing, and we're thinking, the university is beginning to think of dining and housing as a package deal, which it really is, and in most universities it's treated that way. But they still absolutely have the choice as to whether or not they live on campus. So dining has to do its part to make sure that the overall package that we're offering to residents is attractive and competitive. So there is pressure on us. There is market pressure on us for sure to continue to deliver a much better product. I think the other thing to keep in mind is only 65% of the department's revenue comes from residents. So we still have a lot to make up from cash and credit card sales. Without that, the department won't be successful. So we still have to be aggressive in going out and seeking new customers and capturing some of the off-campus market as well in order to succeed. So I think that also keeps the market pressure on us. It's very real.
So you mentioned that the new plan is in conjunction with Residence Life. How do you think it will affect in the future if more students end up living off campus just so they won't have to incur the extra fee of living on campus with the new meal plan?
Well, again, if we create a system or a residential model that's not competitive and not attractive, we have to revisit that. Residence Life and Dining will be looking at the fall 2012 occupancy numbers very closely. And so if we see a decrease in that, we'll have to react to it because the plan only works if the dorms are full. Because if we lose residents for this reason or for any other reason, it has a direct negative effect on the revenue for dining. Whether we have a voluntary plan or not, or a required plan, it has a negative effect on our revenue. So occupancy is something we'll keep a very close eye on.
So what is your ultimate goal for the future of university dining services?
Well, I want to see the students at A&M have a really excellent dining program, and I want us to do our part to make residential life on campus better. And I think we play a role in that because people it's not just about nutrition. It's also about getting together with your friends and having meals together and socializing and really living together on campus. And I think it's important for us to deliver a really great program. The areas that I'm focused on in the short term are facility renovations. I want to see us get out there and start remodeling some things. The MSC is a big improvement project for us. The next thing on my radar would be the Commons. After that, I think we've got to look at some improvements and updates to Duncan. So facility upgrades is critical. We're also expanding our culinary team, so I want the quality of food here on campus to improve. I want students here to have the best variety, the best selection, the best flavors, all at an affordable price. Because I think I'm certainly proud of the reputation that A&M has for being a good return on investment, and so we need to make sure that we keep affordability always in mind. So yeah, that's kind of my vision for the department, short term.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much again for interviewing with us.
Bye-bye.